Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today? Ready to listen to me for 30 minutes? Good, good. Thank you. But the applause will be at the end, not at the beginning. Well, I am Pascal Xelo, so my name is written there. And I am the Director of Cloud and Innovation for IBM in Europe. I am very happy to be with you today. It's my first time in Armenia, so I am very honored to be there and to be one of the speakers of this event. I have been working for IBM for 20 years. And before IBM, I had a life. I worked for Citibank, I worked for the United Nations, and I worked for the stock exchange in Paris. Always in IT. I have a business degree and then a master in IT. I am not an IT specialist, no worries. It will be the next speaker, it will be Clémence. But I am in charge, I have been working in IT business for many years now. I will not tell you the total, it's too much. I will cover in the 30 minutes we have the topic multinational fostering the growth of the tech startups and the challenges of nowadays world. To cover this topic, I will start with the market trends and how IBM is dealing with those market trends. And then I will move to the role of the startups, how the startups can play in this game. So let's start with the market trends. Market trends today, we have noticed that cloud is very popular, and I will talk about hybrid cloud. I will not ask you, do you know what hybrid cloud is? Because that will be the next chart. I will start with the public cloud. Public cloud is well known. Public cloud, it's IBM Cloud, it's Azure, Microsoft Azure, it's Google Cloud, it's Amazon Web Services. So these are what we call public clouds. You are probably all of them users of the public cloud just because on your mobile phone you are using applications which are on the cloud and on a public cloud most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. So these are the public clouds. For big companies, public cloud is not enough. There are a lot of issues with the public cloud. One issue being, I want my data in a private data center in my country. Today, if you look at the public cloud, you don't know where the data are stored. Sometimes you can select where your data are stored. Your data, I mean not as an individual, but your data, the data of the company as a startup or as an entrepreneur. So this is the one issue. Then there are questions of workload. How much workload do you want to put on the cloud? There are questions of performance. So performance is something very important for big customers. If you take a bank, for example, they have to process a lot of transactions in very few time. So this is another issue. And in addition, they have their legacy system. What a legacy system is, it's all the IT system, all the data centers, all the processes which were running before the cloud. For all those reasons, plus in addition, big customers, entrepreneurs, and companies like banks, like retailers, like industrial, would like to combine the public cloud and their own resources, their own data centers. And this mixture will be called hybrid cloud. So from the public cloud, we will move to an hybrid cloud. So let's go through the steps. Public cloud, then dedicated cloud. What is a dedicated cloud? Dedicated cloud, it's a space in a public cloud can be IBM Cloud, can be Amazon Web Services. And you have dedicated machines, dedicated space. So your own data center, which is operated by an operator running a public cloud. This is a dedicated space, and this is called dedicated cloud, but it's external. When you are a big company, you want to optimize the usage of all your servers. To optimize your servers, you can create your own private cloud. So you will create with all your servers and all your resources your own cloud. This is called private cloud. And when you want to mix public cloud and private cloud, it's called hybrid cloud. Today, large companies like banks have 80% of their workload on a private cloud and 20% only on a public cloud. So it's really unbalanced for the time being. Traditionally, they put on the public cloud the new services they will offer. Mobile services, for example. Mobile services for students, for opening the account, for checking the account, for information, this type of new services. Traditional services will stay on the private cloud. But they need the public cloud because it's more agile, because it can scale very quickly. So for them, it's very important to be able to mix those two and to be able to manage the workload according to the demand. It means that 80% of the workload is there. But if suddenly there is an increase, there is a peak, there are sometimes some events when there is a tournament, when you want to see the result, or when there is a football match, suddenly the media will be overwhelmed with demands. So they need to balance the workload, otherwise the website will be unavailable. To balance the workload, they can use some dedicated or public cloud resources. So automatically they can balance the workload and they can use external resources. That's the point. So that was the first market trend, public cloud and hybrid cloud. So public moving from hybrid cloud. The second trend is the client value programs with industry platform. So I will explain what an industry platform is, and I have selected 3 domains only, because otherwise I will spend more than 30 minutes. So I will explain a bit of industry platform. What is industry platform? I took 3 types of industry platform: banking, transportation, and healthcare. So let's start with banking. This is an industry platform for banking. A lot of pictures. But the core system of the bank is in the middle. Then, on this side, you have the customer ecosystem. So I have, in addition to the core system, there is an ecosystem, customer ecosystem. And the customer ecosystem corresponds to the customer needs. So it means that the bank now can be available on Facebook, on Twitter, can send you information, or, for example, as a customer, you can use some external banking services. Do you know an application called Lydia? Lydia is when you want to transfer money to your relative, to your friend, to someone you know, using just a credit card. So Lydia will ask you to put the credit card, your credit card number, plus the credit card number of the person you want to transfer the money to. And automatically you can transfer $10, $20, whatever you want. This is an external service. This is not a banking service, but it relays on some banking functions. And this is for customer needs. On the other side, on this side, you have the ecosystem with the business partners. Business partners, well, you can recognize Apple Pay, for example. Apple Pay, it's payment with your phone. You can recognize cryptocurrency. Maybe you want to invest in cryptocurrency or you want to pay with a cryptocurrency. Those services are not provided by the bank, but are provided by some business partners. I would like to remove this stuff. No. Okay, so it will extend the bank services. So the core banking system is in the middle. On the right, you have an ecosystem made with customers. On the left, you have the other ecosystem made with business partners. Business partners can be software house, can be entrepreneurs, can be startups. And all that is because of open banking. So this is a platform. Behind that, there is a technical platform called Open Banking Platform based on regulation. This regulation is called PSD2. And the open banking system is something mandatory in Europe. So it means that all the banks should allow third parties to access some data, some processes, in order to provide additional services. So this is one example. The second example is Merck. Merck, this company, this is a Danish company. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. They are in the shipment area and they transport containers. I don't know if you are aware of transportation and transportation abroad, shipment. There are many actors dealing with shipment. For example, the taxis, the customs, the port, the freight forwarders, the deliverers. Well, many parties involved each time when there is a transportation. Merck is specialized in that. And the purpose of the platform, which was created between Merck and IBM, it's a joint venture, was to allow all the involved parties to access the same data and to be able, to bill, for example, or to secure the transaction. And it's based on blockchain to secure all the transactions. So typically, for example, you are a freight forwarder, you are responsible for from A to B, and from A to B, at the end, you can say, okay, it's done, delivered, I can prove it, and I can be paid for that. And then from B to C, it will be somebody else. I put, one chart on this system. TradeLens, you can go to Google and you can find more details. But these are more or less the parties involved. So it gives you an example. It can go up to 100 parties involved for one shipment. That's a lot. And all the participants publish and subscribe to data under a shipper-determined digital permissioning model based on blockchain. So that's more or less what is behind this platform. The third example is healthcare. Healthcare, and I took the example of a company called CVS in the US. CVS wanted to extend their services for the customers, so for the clients, and they acquired a health insurer, a retail pharmacy, and a pharmacy benefit manager. So it means that they extended the scope of their business in order to serve better the client. So what does it mean in terms of platform? This is a healthcare platform, so don't go into the details. The healthcare platform is for all the participants, can be medical doctors, hospitals, pharmacists, and all the other parties involved in healthcare. The platform will provide a data lake. That's the most important. Data lake available according to the law of the country. You have to be very careful because healthcare is something very touchy in terms of regulation. But available according to the law of the country and to what is relevant. So not all the data, of course, are published on this data lake, but only the relevant data for the relevant companies. And it will help the startups, for example, or all the parties involved to access those data and to provide new services with those data. Okay, so let's move on. I described the landscape and the trends in terms of future, where we are going to in terms of IT. So two things. One is hybrid cloud, and the second one is industry platforms. Developers and startups have a really great role to play in this strategy because they are part of the ecosystem. They are sometimes in the public cloud. They could move to a private cloud or a dedicated cloud. They can provide new services so they can enrich the platforms. It's why IBM created some specific programs for students and for startups. So I will start with the program for students, and then I will move on for the one for the startups. For students, there is something called academic initiatives. Academic initiative, that's for students and teachers. More or less, it will give you access to the IBM services which are displayed on the IBM cloud, plus some reduction on some licenses, plus some tutorials, so education. That's a summary of what is available. Later on, Clémence will explain a bit more about Watson Assistant, Watson Studio, Watson Visual Recognition. These are all the cognitive services and the services related to artificial intelligence from IBM. So those services are available on the platform for students and teachers. Free of charge. That's the point. In addition, there are some SaaS software which are available for research. That's software based on machine learning, deep learning, and prediction. And there are some courses available for education. So this is what we have for the students and the teachers. For the startups, we like very much the startups. Why do we like the startups? Because they will enhance the, let's say, the services we will provide to our customers. IBM work with large customers, and then we use business partners for small customers. So we don't serve directly small customers. And when we work with our customers, they ask us to provide value added. So when we make an offer, very often we will include some startup innovative solution into our offer. And it will help to be more innovative, more relevant for our customers. The program for startups is called Startup with IBM, Build, Scale, Win. The benefit. The major benefit is cloud credits. So startups can get cloud credits from $1,000 per month up to $10,000 per month for 12 months. Yes, that's a lot. I can see your face and say, all that. Yes, it's a lot of money. And consuming on the cloud $1,000 per month means that there is a lot of workload. So this is what we can provide to the startups for 12 months. It will give them access to the Watson services, to IBM blockchain, to the analytics services, security services, all the services which are on the IBM cloud. Plus, in addition, there are some tutorials, there are some webinars, and there are some, let's say, education sessions plus developer network, so they can exchange and they can learn more. And the best advantage for me would be this one. It's the global network of IBM. So the startups will be part of the global network of IBM. So it means visibility, it means connection with IBM clients, and it means being involved in some offerings of IBM. And for the most successful startup, they can become part of the channel, and they can become business partners of IBM, official business partners of IBM. So this is the key, for me this is the key topic, because a startup is always looking for some customers, new customers, and that's very difficult to acquire customers. So this is the opportunity to get visibility and to be backed up by IBM. Because usually a big customer, a bank, will not sign directly with you because of the risk and the integration. If there is a risk, the startup will not able to cope with the risk and to find a solution. So it's too risky for them. When the startup is embedded by IBM, it means that the risk is taken by IBM. And if there is any problem when we scale, IBM will manage the situation. So that's the main reason why large companies are often reluctant to contract directly with startups. So this is what we do with startup. So programs for students, program for startups. And that's the way IBM has decided to help the IT companies and the entrepreneurs in order to grow up and to be involved into the innovation and to benefit each other from the innovations which are done. Any questions? Yeah, before we upload. And yeah, we will take this opportunity maybe to change the recording. So I can take one or two questions. Yeah. So speak loud.
Yeah, thank you for your speech. I would like just know it will be the shortest question. So when the IBM will come in Armenia? Thank you.
We are IBM. We are IBM. We are in Armenia. So now branch is another story. Branch is another story, and I cannot answer. It depends on the strategy. It depends on the market, the local market. But we have some representative. ESTC is a representative of IBM. And they provide some education session on IBM product. They can help on all what is related to IBM. Is there another question? Thank you very much. And I will pass on the mic to Clémence, but we need to change for the recording. So.
Hello, thank you Pascal for all this insight about IBM Cloud and program for startup and students. Now I will go into more technical topics and technical features you can find on IBM Cloud. So first of all, so my name is Clémence Lebrun. I'm one of the IBM developer advocate for cloud in Europe. With Pascal, we are based in Nice, in France. So sorry for my accent, I will try to speak slowly because I have a French accent. So my job is basically to support developers in Europe and to meet developers and help them to get started with IBM Cloud and IBM Cloud services. So that means that I do a lot of hackathon, developer conference. I do workshop also with any type of developers. It can be clients, it can be business partners, but it's also students sometimes and startups. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So basically on the topics mainly on AI, so artificial intelligence and IoT. So if I have one message for you today is what we want to help you with IBM and IBM Cloud is to don't start from scratch. When you're students, when you're startups, you need to create your first product really quickly to test your idea and to test the market. So that's why the cloud and IBM Cloud or hybrid cloud or whatever you want, it's a good option for you. How many developers do we have in the room? Yeah, data scientists maybe? Non-technical people? It's okay.
Depends on your definition of a developer or technical people.
Okay, well, just technical.
DevOps or sysadmin.
Okay, I think you will get it. So this is just a slide to summarize cloud computing. And this is what we offer at IBM. Either if you choose, like in Pascal presented, either public cloud, private cloud, or dedicated cloud, you have this kind of choice for your cloud computing and your level of responsibility. This is the traditional way of working. So this is what you can do at home with your server in your room. You can do it on IBM Cloud as well. Is to use bare metal and to install everything on the infrastructure. It means from the networking until the code and the data. But there are various options we offer as well on IBM Cloud, which are virtual servers, containers, Cloud Foundry, and Cloud Functions. Cloud Function is the one with the most, where you abstract the most of the infrastructure. This is serverless. I don't know if you're familiar with serverless. It's like on Amazon Web Services Lambda function, for example. So at IBM it's called Cloud Functions, so we offer this option as well. And more you go to the right, more you do total abstraction of the infrastructure. So if you are a developer, you're not necessarily an administrator, you want to get started quickly, you want to deploy and run your code on the platform, this is possible without managing any of the blue layer. So depending on your choice, of course you can go to containers if you need more flexibility, but you can also choose Cloud Foundry options if you just need a runtime. This is like a language where you're gonna run your application on the cloud. This is possible. You have the choice of the region as well. You can choose between US, Europe, Asia, depends of your needs and of your latency. For all several options. So this was just a summary of what you can do with cloud. And this is not just like that, the cloud. So this is to run and host your application, but this is also to consume services. So the second advice I will give you is to not to reinvent the wheel. Why I'm saying that is because often you have really great idea and sometimes you don't always know what already exists on the technical world, and there's a lot that already exists. And if you look at services, cloud services, for example on the IBM Cloud Services, you can find on many topics such as AI, IoT, analytics, DevOps, blockchain, storage, a lot of different services that can help you to build quicker your application and to get more value on it. We have 3 types of services on IBM Cloud. Some are completely developed and managed by IBM. We also have some open source community services. If you go to IBM Cloud Platform, you will see that this is really open to open source. We have a lot of open source services available that help you for the integration, because of course you don't pay for it, but for the integration it makes the life easier for you. We also, by the way, the cloud is based on several open standards. So you've seen in the previous slide that we are using Cloud Foundry. This is an open standard for PaaS, Platform as a Service. Same for containers. So the idea is really to stay open and to let you the possibility to manage your workload on hybrid cloud with different cloud, to move from one cloud to another cloud. So we won't lock you. Okay, so you can use what already exists. This is basically the API economy. But you can for sure customize the wheel. So we will see with and especially with the artificial intelligence services that are available on IBM Cloud, you can make it your own. So that means that you're going to use the engine, the machine learning algorithm and deep learning of IBM services, but you're going to be able to totally personalize it for your own problematic, your own industry, depending of your problem you're trying to solve. So have you already heard about Watson? Yeah. Do you know what is it? No, more or less. So Watson, it's at IBM, it's a brand. So it's used for many products, many services. So the word Watson, it's just a brand. We have two types, let's say, of products. We are the ones which are software as a service. For example, we have several software as a service for data visualization or for education purpose, for healthcare. We do sell some software called Watson Healthcare, Watson Education, this kind of thing. But what I'm going to talk about today, it's Watson Services. Watson Services, these are a set of Watson APIs available for developers. So these are APIs you can use in your apps. You can customize it. You can train it depending on the services. Create your own models, for example, and integrate it in your apps. So Watson Services for AI, they are available on the IBM Cloud Platform. If you go to the platform catalog and go to the AI section, you will see all the Watson services available for you. And to create it, well, you will just have to create it to get some credential, like a URL and API key, in order to be able to integrate it in your app and to use it in your different projects. So let's start with the most easy one, let's say. About the speech, so of course we do have text-to-speech and speech-to-text functionality. This can be used out of the box. It means that you can just create the service and call your API in your apps, but you can also customize it. For example, if there are some in your project and you're trying to recognize some words that are maybe not in the regular vocabulary, you can train the service to recognize some specific words either on the speech or on the text and totally personalize the service for you. Second category is language. So in language we do have a language translator which makes some translations. So same, you can also customize it with specific words. Natural language classifier is another type of service because when you create it, you will have access to a tooling inside the platform, which will give you, which will allow you to personalize the service. So natural language classifier, what does it do? It classifies some text, so it can be large text, it can be sentences, any text that you want to classify. It means that just giving the text to the service, you will get a classification depending on how you train it before. Let's look a bit more in focus on that service. So this is how it looks. So this is the demo. So for each Watson service, you can access online to a demo that allow you to test the service and to see exactly what kind of result does it give it to you. So this is the demo of natural language classifier, the one which is online. And the demo is about classifying questions about the weather either if it's a temperature topic or a conditions topic. By the way, on the demo, every time you will find the API references, the documentation. You will find sample application on GitHub that you can fork that can help you to integrate the service, give you some examples, and the direct link to the service on the platform, of course. On the right, you can see the integration facilitator, so you can find some commands. For example, here you have the directive to integrate the service with a Node.js application. So how to install the libraries, how to use the SDK inside your app. So for all Watson services, you will have SDK available on Python, Java, Go, Node.js, several languages. So if I'm going back to the demo, so what I want to do is classify the weather question. So when I create my service, I will get access to the tool, which look like that. The tool for train and customize your services is called Watson Studio. It doesn't do just that. Watson Studio is a big tooling. We'll see later what does it do as well. But every time you need to customize services, you will go to this tool. So no worries, it will be you will be redirected since you click on the service, so you don't have to go directly on Watson Studio. When you click on NLC service, it will bring you to Watson Studio. And here, it asks you to create a classifier and to create some class. So here we created 2 classes, conditions and temperature. And for each classes, we give some examples. So because what I was saying is we want to classify some questions. The examples we're going to give, it's example of question the user could ask about the weather. So you can see that we didn't put a lot of example. 26 for conditions, 24 for temperature. The minimum is 10, so it's really low. But the most you give, the better you will have some good results. So since you have created your classes, you're able to train your model. And when your model is trained, basically you can just do a call API to your service and giving like the ID of your classifier, because you can have several classifiers, of course. You will be able to use this classification functionality. So if I ask a question here, well, this is in the demo, so it could be in your app. You get a result which is always a JSON object structure response. And you see here that we get 2 classes, because we created only 2 classes. We get 2 classes results with a confidence rate. So for all services that are used in Watson, you will get this score with your classes in order to make sure that you have a good result. Because if I had a bad result for temperature and a bad result for conditions, it means that this is not the first one, this is not the second one, this is the third options that you maybe didn't classify yet and you could add after to your model. So basically this is it for NLC. The way to, so if this is a summary of using the NLC services. First you need to prepare your data. So you need to identify the class you want to recognize in your user input. Then you need to collect some examples to train your classes. The examples, of course, doesn't have to be exactly what the user will ask. It's just examples to train your classifications. Then, so you create and train the classifier, and you're ready to query the train classifier. In the tooling, by the way, I didn't show you, but there is a way to test your model. So you can test it before deploying or before going to this step. You can test it, and if you see that you don't have really good results, you can maybe add more example or add another class to your classifier, depending of the results. Then you can integrate it in your app, and you can evaluate your results and update training data at any moment. If you see that even when your application is in productions and you have maybe new type of question or this kind of thing, you can rebuild your classifier. It will be still the same API. You will not have to change the code, but in the tool, you will be able to modify the classification. Okay, so that was for language. Now we have another category which is called empathy. So we do tone analyzing. So when I say tone analyzing, it's tone on the text and not on the voice. So it will give you some emotion analysis, linguistic analysis, and social analysis. So this means that it can be used. This service can be used on really short text. So usually it's used for text message, for tweets, but it can also be used for emails, for longer text, and that helps you to improve your communication and your customer, let's say, satisfaction. Because when this service is used in addition to chatbot, for example, you are able to react. So the user says something. You can analyze the emotion, for example, of the user, and if you see that he's really angry, I mean, when I say if you see, it's the system, it's all automated. So the system can reply with a specific response, depending of the emotions he could see in the user inputs. So that's for customer satisfaction. Also, it can be used in, for example, it's been used in company before sending emails to clients. Sometimes, you know, when you write an email, you do it really fast. You have a lot of things to do, and you say some stuff that can be understood in a wrong way. And with this kind of services, you can apply the service before sending the emails, and then you make sure about the emotion which is felt by the person who received the email. So, well, you're sure. This is, of course, this is an insight. This helps you to communicate better. This is not something that you're going to say for sure. This is anger tone, but this is going to give you an insight with the confidence rate. Personality insights. It's also it can create psychological profile from a text input. Text inputs such as, for example, it can be Twitter field, it can be a resume, it can be a debate between two people. So the input needs to be something written by the person you need to get the profile psychological for. And it will give you a complete profile, psychological profile of the user that can help you to do some recommendation. For example, if you have an app where you want to sell some stuff to your user and you have a user profile in this app, maybe you add a description or something, I mean, you have some information about your user, it can help you to give some recommendation of what he could buy, what he would like, this kind of thing. AI assistants. It's another type of service. It works with a tool integrated to the platform as well. Yeah, I didn't say it, but this one, Tone Analyzer and Personality Insight, they can be used out of the box. You don't need to train anything for that. You just use the service as it is. What's an assistant? It's a tool to create chatbots. So it's an all-integrated tool where you're going to create, I don't know if you have some experience with creating intelligent chatbots, but it helps you to create entities, intents, dialog flow, and you have like a test window in your tooling where you can test your chatbot while you are creating it before deploying it. So it's a series of tools, really interesting. You have access to existing content in this tool. So for example, you can reuse existing content about entities, about some specific industry, or general stuff. Like usually when you create a chatbot, you always have a starting node where you're going to check, you're going to say hello, how are you, this kind of thing. So you have all reusable stuff on that, on greetings, on things like that. On the deployments, it's going to be API calls as well in your app. But if you don't want to integrate it in applications such as a web or mobile application, you can also deploy the service directly to, for example, Messenger, Facebook Messenger, or to Slack. So you have direct deployment possibilities. Visual recognition, so another category, and vision. We do have a service to recognize and to classify images. So I will go deeper on this one. So with visual recognition, you are able to first identify objects in an image. It means that on an image like that, I will be able to recognize people, chairs, that we are inside, that there is window, that there is a white color, that there are some cameras. So this is the kind of tag you will get for your images. So you will be able to identify objects in the image. Second, you will be able to categorize stuff in your images. So you will be able to make a differentiation between two objects on your image. For example, here, you're able to make the difference between vintage car and modern car. I will explain you after how. Then, that can help you to assess for better problem solving. So this means that you will be able, for a piece like that, to say this is a fake one or this is a good one. With a confidence rate every time. And finally, all of this information can help you to make some recommendation and to faster the decision making. It means that if I train my model on some images and I'm able to see, okay, this is a problem, category problem A, I identify that in my image, and I can do also predictive analytics in parallel and say, okay, with this kind of problems, I know that the fixed cost were like that, and for example, an insurance company will be able to give an insight on how much it will cost to make some reparation. This is a first insight, of course. It's not like the total result, but it helps you to make some decision on if you are yourself an insurance company or a user of the car. So you have several features in visual recognition. It works a little bit like NLC that I presented earlier, Natural Language Classifier. It's the same tool. You're using Watson Studio to train your images and to create your classes. But the difference is that this service comes also with some out-of-the-box features. So it comes with pre-trained models. Pre-trained model by IBM that has been trained on public images, not your images. It has already been trained. So the first one is the general model. So this is the one that's going to tag you your image and give some insight about the about the image. You also have the face model. The face model is able first to locate a face in an image, so to say exactly the measurement of the face in the image, and also to give you a prediction on the age and the gender, an estimation. It can be used, for example, for not just on age and gender, but if you need to know when if you have an app where people are uploading pictures in it and make it public, often you don't want to have people faces on this kind of images. So with this treatment on the back end, you are able to see, okay, I see that there are 2-3 faces. I don't want to let the guy upload this picture on my app because I don't want, or maybe I will, but I will hide the faces because you have the exact location on the image of the faces. So it can be a usage as well. You also have the food model, which is still in beta, that is trained to recognize food and meals. And the explicit model that can help you to determine inappropriate content in images, in beta as well. And the most interesting is the custom model. So the custom model is like the NLC. You're going to create your class, you're going to bring your images to the system, you're going to train the model, and you're going to get your own results. So usually when you have a specific problem to solve, specific things you want to recognize in your images for your industry, for your specific problem, you will use the custom model because the general model is too general. It can give you just general insight about the images. So usually you will use the custom model. We also have a private beta custom object detections that allow you to exactly, because the custom model you will see, okay, this is object A, this is object B, but it will not locate the object on the images. It just trains the images on the full images. And custom objects, you will be able to locate the exact position of your objects in the images. So yeah, you see the interface, it looks like NLC, it's exactly the same. So you just drag and drop your images. Even a business people that are an expert on a certain domain can use this tool to train the model. You don't need to be, that's the whole story about Watson services. You don't need to be a data scientist to bring AI to your application. We have other features such as, so Watson Studio is a tool to customize and to create your custom model. We also have a feature with CoreML to do some offline treatments. So sometimes it's needed, for example, in manufacturers, you want to do some treatment with visual recognition, but you don't have internet connections. So in that case, you can create your custom model, you can export the model, and on an iOS device, you are able to analyze the images with your own model using the CoreML framework of iOS. So this is a really powerful feature. Okay, so as a summary, this is all the Watson services. I did not talk about these 5 others. So we do have NLU. NLU help you to find in text-based as well to get some keywords, some entities from your text. You can train it and customize it, but with the Knowledge Studio tool, not the Watson Studio. Discovery, it's a service that helps you to create cognitive engine. So you give him as an input, or as a, let's say, a data asset, a lot of information, can be PDF, HTML, XML, whatever you want, and you are able to query in natural language something, saying I want to know how to start my coffee machine, and you will get the better paragraph in different text input that can answer your question. So it can be used for FAQ, this kind of thing. And you can train it as well, because it comes out of the box, so it will give you some insight out of the box, but you can train it to recognize specific keywords and entities that you want to make sure to recognize. Watson Studio is the tool. So it's the tool to customize. It's the tool also for data scientists in Watson Studio. It's a total environment where you can create notebooks, where you can do predictive analytics as well with different algorithms. You will use machine learning service in that, which allow you to use either Watson or TensorFlow or whatever framework you want. This is really open. This is an environment for developer, data scientists, and subject matter experts. Yeah, to finish, so the IBM Cloud is for free. When you go to the platform, you create an account, a light account, which will have no time limits. It will just be limited in terms of usage, so in terms of number of services, memories. So it's good for tests. If you want to test the Watson services, go for it. You can just create an account with an email, and you will be able to test the AI services. And then, if you need more, you can enter either the startup program or the student program. We also have a big network of developers around the platform. DeveloperWorks is the main one from IBM. We do have a lot of tutorials, a lot of sample apps, starter kits, different stuff. And you have a big Watson developer community, which is present on Medium, which is present on GitHub, of course. All the SDK can be downloaded from GitHub, and sample apps as well. And yeah, to finish, the key points with cloud and services, so APIs. You can focus on your IDs and not on the infrastructure. You don't need so much experts to realize your AI project. Well, of course, if you have a data scientist in your team, it's good, it's very good, and then you will maybe use different tooling than the Watson APIs. But if you don't, you can use Watson APIs. You can test your app to the market really rapidly, and if it doesn't work, you just move to another project, or you fix some stuff. But when you don't think about the infrastructure, you can spend more time on your marketing and other stuff. Flexibility of choice, so we don't lock you with the platform. For developers, you are allowed to use your own IDE. You can use also online IDE and project development facilitators like DevOps services, for example, DevOps. I heard someone say I'm a DevOps at the beginning. Yeah, continuous integration, useful APIs, and join the ecosystem. Thank you. And we have a challenge called Call for Code. If you want to try, you can get up to 200K if you have a good solution for the natural disaster problem. You have some question, maybe, quickly?
I was wondering if Watson has multilingual capabilities and can it recognize text syntax, and what languages does it support?
It does support different languages. I checked, there's no Armenian, I'm sorry. But
is there Russian? Because
there is Russian for some. For each services is different. Each services are its own developers, and language are different.
Thank you.